Go here with all the beach parties.
So far, so good as far as no news.
My own friggin' neighbors were launching off
Hi.
military grade
Oh, no kidding. Yeah.
like M50s.
Happy Monday.
You better?
I'm drugged.
You're drugged. Excellent.
God bless them, oxycillin.
The legal ones, I assume.
That's right, absolutely. Yep. I'll pass any test you give.
And no COVID.
No, that was never an issue. Although I swear she tested me at the clinic and in the right nostril, my left eye closed. Like, what is that? And if anybody needs kits. we
I
have
saw a bunch of them down there.
Right.
I got a bunch of them too.
Please, take 5, they're free.
They're back to testing every time I go into the Woodlands to visit my mother.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
They've done well. They had 2 cases. One was my mother, who goes
Oh, no
nowhere
kidding.
but to my house.
Yeah,
And the other lady never comes out of her room, so
Jeez.
who knows how they got
yeah,
it.
it's crazy.
It is crazy. Did we make it through the 4th without incident?
Preliminarily, but we've had a few nasty grams. I think you guys have
I've
seen
got,
those.
yeah, saw those.
Cast a character.
Much better,
So
thank you, yeah.
I think overall, police chief
That's
said
a-
he thought it was
Yeah.
great.
It's only bronchitis.
And you know, compared to the, discussion about Dennis.
Remember when that was a serious
If we
thing?
get through, if people complain about noise, this is
Yeah,
not gonna change anything, what we're doing in town.
no, not with a few that are,
I mean, it's a busy weekend.
swear to God.
Things,
It's
No one died.
ridiculous, I swear to God. How are you
The
feeling?
Bank Street neighbors
Yeah.
wrote to me and
There was a
thanked us for
revision
what we
from a
did.
replacement.
Said Bank Street
Fragment.
was
I didn't get,
And
I didn't get thanked.
I'm on prednisone.
Madam, all set, go ahead. Good evening, I'm gonna call the Board of Selectmen's meeting from Monday, July 11th, 2022 to order. We are about to go into executive session, and we will return to open session no later than 6:30 PM. Don?
I move that we enter executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Paragraph 2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel and contract negotiations for non-union personnel. Town Administrator and Finance Director / Town Accountant, Joseph F. Powers and Anne Marie Ellis. Second, pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss with respect to collective bargaining for all town unions, and the chair has determined that open session would have a detrimental effect on the town's bargaining position. Third, pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Paragraph 21A7, to comply with or act under the authority of any general or special law or federal grant and aid requirements, Purpose 7, the Open Meeting Law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Paragraph 22FG, to review, approve, and/or discuss the possible release of executive session meeting minutes dated February 22nd, 2022, June 6, 2022, June 13th, 2022, and June 27th, 2022, and I note that we will return after the executive session into open session.
Second.
Moved and seconded, roll call vote. Larry?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
Julie?
Aye.
Don?
Aye.
I'm an aye.
Well done, Don.
If all I have to, we'll be done in a half hour tonight. If we go the same speed as Don.
Yeah, we all have.
All of a sudden, a truck comes right at me.
Oh, my God.
And I'm going, like this. He pulled his horn and everything. I was like, do you ever think of stopping? It's your lane that's obstructed, not mine. My lane is unobstructed.
Right, I'm moving along.
I mean, I was like,
Yeah,
my daughter
that's
was
scary.
like, can't be that. She grew up here. She can't be that bad. She lives in Florida.
It's,
And the
this, I
nurse,
think this is the worst year.
even the nurse at the hospital, she goes, well, it's not as if, it's like New York. I said, I grew up in New York. I drove the carpool for 20 years. This is insane. There are no rules.
No, and you know,
I could drive in Manhattan because I could look at the taxi driver's eyes and I knew what he was going to do and I was going to do, and it was a
yeah,
new
it's
set
kind
of
of,
rules.
it's kind of a given, you know? But this,
We'll be done,
my daughter and I went to,
but we'll definitely.
we went to Mayflower Beach because my husband dropped us off, and my other daughter was working, and so John dropped us off at like noon, and it was still a little, it didn't get sunny till like 2. My other daughter was picking us up, and she got out like 4 or 5, right? So we're sitting there. I said, Maddie, we can't even move. It was so crowded, and the tide was going to come come in, I said, we're just gonna sit here. So we did, we were sitting there. And you know, there was a couple people around us. One person had loud music, and at first I didn't even know what I did, because I'm like, oh, we didn't have any music, and it's nice to hear something. But, and so I had music, and it was Hispanic music, which I don't mind that much.
Hey, Joe.
Later, he goes to this whole thing of just like a beat, no words, no nothing, like, boom, boom, boom. Oh my God, I'm sitting there. If I had a
For me,
car,
that was comforting because when my son, I always knew when my son was coming back from Brewster.
could hear it.
It kept getting louder. I was like, Will's
Here it
coming.
comes. And then people were walking under the thing by our thing. It was awful. And then I said,
Hope that wasn't the weekend that they had that
Oh, thank you.
crazy riot and stuff.
Matt, you all set? Okay. Good evening. I'm going to call the Board of Selectmen's meeting for July 11th, 2022 back to order. We started tonight's meeting at 5:30 in executive session, where we discussed non-union personnel contract negotiations for Joseph Powers and Anne Marie Ellis. No votes were taken. Collective bargaining for all town unions. No votes were taken in that. And then we did take a vote on approving executive session minutes for different dates in June of 2022. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Public comment and announcement?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, on behalf of the town, just a reminder that on Tuesday, July 26, 2022, the town's law firm, KP Law, along with town administrator and town clerk, will be holding 2 sessions of open meeting law training. And this is open for all boards, commissions, and committees. The training will take place at the Harwich Community Center in the multipurpose room, which is located at 100 Oak Street. And there are 2 sessions. It's the same material at 2 different sessions. Sessions will be held from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. and 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. This is a notice that went out to all chairs of boards, commissions, and committees, but if anyone is interested in signing up, they are encouraged to contact the administration department, and our number is 508-430-7513. That's 508-430-7513, and that's option 2. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Don?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to take note of the fact that this Saturday at Brooks Park, there'll be a celebration of Cape Verdean heritage of Cape Cod, more specifically in Harwich. I'm certain everybody's invited to partake in it.
Kevin?
Good evening, Kevin Considine, Deputy Chief. I'm here to announce a retirement from the Harwich Police Department, and this is a bittersweet one for us as a department, but me personally too. Special Officer Bob Curry has retired after 40 years and 2 weeks. He wanted to make sure it was known it was 40 years and 2 weeks. And many in this room can attest to just the man Bob is and what he has done for this town and for our department. Bob started as a high school teacher at Franklin High, where he retired. When he was there, prior to 1982, he was on the Medfield Police Department as a reserve officer and worked on the ambulance as well there. 1982, he came to the town of Harwich and became a reserve officer. Bob has done almost everything in the department as far as logistics for parades, special events, patrol, vehicle maintenance, vehicle procurement. He was our department mechanic when we didn't have centralized maintenance. He bought a car and put everything in it. Lights, sirens, radios, cages, you name it, Bob did it. So Bob will be truly missed by our department. He's not going far, but he is retiring. On a special note, Bob was my high school teacher at Franklin High, and I can credit me being here now to one person, and that's Bob Curry, and what he did for me personally to get me working here in 1996 at Bank and 28 to where I am now. So Bob is just a great guy, and we congratulate him and thank him for all his service.
Thank you, Kevin. I think we owe Bob Curry a round of applause.
Good evening, David Blank, Fire Chief. I just wanted to take a note, also Matt Eldridge, who came to the department in 2001, retired on July 2nd, was his last official day. As typical of an Eldridge, he went out his own way, which was very quiet, didn't want any fanfare. We didn't do a last day coffee or anything else, but Matt served the town very well for a lot of years, and to my knowledge, is the last Eldridge involved in the fire service. And that's quite a historic legacy of firefighters in that family, from Bert to his father to Murph. Many have served in Harwich and other departments. So we want to recognize that and also announce that next Monday at 8:30, we'll be having a swearing in for his replacement. Is Michael Travato, who is the son of the fire chief in Provincetown. Comes to us previously having worked in Sandwich. A great hire. He's currently in his training. We'll swear him in at headquarters in our usual fashion next Monday at 8:30. Everybody's welcome.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
While we're at it, let's have a round of applause for Matt Eldridge. Kevin, if you don't mind, do you want to say a few words about the consent agenda? Specifically the appointment, the confirmation of the appointment?
Yes, thank you. Kevin Considine, Deputy Chief again. On your consent agenda is affirmation of recommendation of James Hinesley to full-time officer. James is just completing his last week at the Police Academy, so this is just a formal effort to get him on board. He was in the Cape Cod Police Academy. He did extremely well on every aspect of the academy, and we can't wait to have him next Monday on the roads with us working.
Thank you, Kevin. Anyone else for public comment and announcement? Moving on to the presentations and public hearings. So the first public hearing is Chase Escape Cape Cod LLC DBA Summer House Cafe to present an update on the non-use of their Section 12 on-premise seasonal all-alcohol liquor license. Mary, would you read the public hearing notice?
Sure. Harwich Board of Selectmen, notice of public hearing, Monday, July 11th, 2022. The Harwich Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing under Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, on Monday, July 11th, 2022, no earlier than 6 p.m. in the Don B. Griffin Room located at Harwich Town Hall, 732 Main Street, Harwich, for the purpose of hearing a progress update from Chase Escape Cape Cod, DBA The Summer House Cafe, 126 Route 28, Harwich, regarding the non-use of their current seasonal all-alcohol liquor license. All members of the public having an interest in this topic are cordially invited to attend. Remote participation is also offered. Please see the posted agenda for dial-in information, signed by the local licensing authority, the Harwich Board of Selectmen, and published in the Cape Cod Chronicle, June 23rd, 2022.
Thank you, Mary. Public hearing is open.
Good evening. My name is Tom Polini. I'm the managing partner. Before we begin, could I just approach a couple of handouts for you folks? Thank you. Thank you. This is our original business. I'll get back into it. The first sheet is what this public hearing is about, I guess, an update of where we're at. The second is our original business plan that we submitted.
Come up and sit down at the table.
Oh, okay, sure. The second is our original business plan that we presented in March of 2021. And the reason I submit that is the last hearing, which I was not present at, I was ill. One of the board members brought up something that the health department said about septic. And in our business plan, we addressed that, and you folks probably have a copy of the email that they sent us back speaking about the septic. So that's why I submitted the business plan as well, because I think it's pertinent to what was brought up last time. So as you see, if you have any questions on that, where we're at right now, I wasn't here last time. I was ill. I've been ill for a few months. I thought I had my voice back completely, but I guess I don't. And last time, I was not here, and I know I was required to be here. So I have a question as to whether that hearing itself was, I guess, pertinent or legal in that regard, because I was not able to be here. I did email ahead of time Mr. Powers and tell him that I couldn't make it, because at the time, I was either in the hospital or just got out, I don't remember.
We can get back to that.
Yeah,
That meeting
okay.
doesn't matter at this point. This meeting was
Yeah, so
legally noticed. You're here
that's-
tonight.
That's why,
So rather than
It's about
give
the
us this
updates.
in writing, why don't you go through your update with us?
Yeah, let me
Because it
just-
is a public
I
hearing.
left mine back there, excuse me. Sorry. Last time, one of the issues were, well, some of the issues were with the red X on the building and all of that. The fire alarm and sprinkler system were not online. They now have been they have been brought up to online the last, I guess they've been online for 4 or 5 weeks now. Alarm and sprinkler and the monitoring is online. All the buildings, another concern was that buildings were not secured or locked. There were some doors that were open, et cetera. Those, all the doors and any other entrances that they referred to the building department that we really couldn't find, we are now secured. There's locks on all of the doors, so in order for somebody to get in, they'd have to break in like any other business. The sheet rock that they had referred to was a load on the upper floor of the restaurant building, not the other building. They said it was heavy. That's been removed. It's been taken down, so it's no longer I guess, a hazard. And the railing on the back building stairs has been fixed and installed. In addition, we've hired a general contractor who's been hired, and he'll be coordinating going forward any permits and construction immediately. He should be in touch. And that's kind of an update of where we're at, except that we've requested of the health, fire, and building department the inspectional records of the former Irish pub from the last 16 or 17 years, so that we can evaluate what the actual inspection and approval process is as it pertains to us. We had some very serious concerns when we took over that building as to how the building was open for the previous 15 years, to put it succinctly. There was I've been in this business for 40 years. I go through this every year at every place I've been. I know how it works, fire, building, health, before you can even open the doors. I understand that. I don't know how that place was able to open for all those years, past any of those inspections. So, as we were advised, we've requested those, and we have not received them yet, but we just recently requested them. So, that's kind of the update that I can give you as of right now. But I think the main thing there is that we have finally, after having a lot of issues with contractors, hired a solid general contractor who's going to be moving forward with the building department, et cetera. And I will, now that I'm hopefully back, well, I am, back to 95%, let's say, we'll be moving forward. As I had beforehand, when we first applied, all of the applications, all of the communication, everything pertaining to that business and to the opening of that business was done through me. I communicated with the administrator's office, health department, building department, fire department, all of that, until I became ill late summer, last fall. And I think that was probably the biggest reason that things came to a standstill. Because in my agreement and my partnership with Nick, he's a very busy man, as you know, we're not gonna get into that. But I was to take the point on all of this. I was to be the driving force, the person that would get the place up and running, as I've had many years' experience doing the same thing. And so I guess that kind of falls on me, but I'm happy to report that we finally do have a solid general contractor who's familiar in the town. So be happy to answer further questions or.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anyone in the public wish to comment on this? Anyone online? Can I get a motion to close the public hearing?
So move.
Second.
Moved and seconded to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And we'll go to board comments. Don?
Well, you just gave this to us, so
I know,
just
I understand,
quickly
yeah.
perusing it.
Yeah.
Whenever, you have done this before, and I know you've done this before, whenever a business changes hands, the septic is immediately up for grabs to be inspected, to be approved. That's, you move into a house that does that. So it's irrelevant what it was, it's what it needs to be when it changes hands, first of all. Second of all, I'm happy to hear that you've made that. I mean, just from my own perspective, because I held a packaged goods license where I was, at a store.
Right.
And you didn't use the license all last year because of inaction. And everything you just said is what you intend to do, but you still have absolutely no approvals from anybody to open. And that's where I'm going to leave it, because those aren't, you can't go back and say, I don't know how that guy was open before. This is you opening now, and you need departmental approvals, including the fire, the building, and the health. I mean, those are your responsibilities, not somebody else's from the past.
No, I wasn't saying that. I already had said that. I said, I know after being in 40 years in this business, that we need, before we do anything, we need the approval. I stated that earlier, of the health, fire, and building. I know how that works. And that's why, and I know we can't open now. I mean, God, we can't go turn on the lock and open now. I know that moving forward, we need to have the building inspected by those three departments. I certainly know that. And that's why, with this general contractor moving forward, we're gonna get, what needs to really be done, it might seem like a lot, but what really needs to be done is not a lot, because we're not changing anything inside. We're not doing a lot. We're not doing any of that. We've already stated that well, I'm going back a year, that short-term, we're gonna do exactly what was there before, pretty much. And then our long-term is something different, that we have a long-term perspective for what we're gonna do there. As for the septic, we were told right from the beginning that if you do anything different, that septic is gonna have to be updated. We've already gone and contracted an engineer, he did the site work, and we already have that. And if things had progressed like we had hoped they would last year, we would this year be coming to you with the new septic proposal, because we had first said we were gonna operate maybe a year, 2 years tops, and then we would come and look for the new septic and move forward with a full restaurant and that type of thing that we wanted to do. But again, I know what you're saying, Dawn, that that didn't happen, and the onus is on us now. I'm
Just to summarize, because we're glomming together two separate issues. You got a business, and you're not capable of opening right now. But there are liquor regulations, ABCC regulations, license regulations. I am unfamiliar with anybody who had a license for an entire year, did not exercise it even 1 hour, and now is well into the second season as a renewal and is not in a position to exercise that either. The deal here isn't whether you can open as a business and whether the general contractor can come in at some future time and finish the job. It's, are you in a position to exercise the license? You didn't for a year and you haven't for this year. And that's all I'm going to say.
Well, yes, to answer your question, we are in a position to do that, but first, the first step in that is having the general contractor come in to finish these things and get the approvals. I mean, I can't do it myself, so that, that's what I'm speaking to. Now, let me just go back, you mentioned about you're not aware of any liquor license establishment staying closed and not,
In this town,
oh, in this town, okay. There are currently over 2 dozen in Massachusetts.
in this town.
No, I'm just saying that it's not unprecedented with the ABCC, particularly since COVID, okay? Particularly since COVID.
Are you saying this is
No,
linked
not
to
in this
COVID?
town, not in this
Are
town.
you saying that all your woes are linked to
No,
COVID?
no, some of it was.
We've,
No.
we've gone far enough on this one.
Yeah, I'm
But
yeah,
we're here tonight to
No,
get
I
a
understand.
status update on
Yep.
when you're gonna open.
and that's what I,
And thank you for that.
yeah,
Larry?
Well, thanks for appearing.
sure.
You know, I think we all like to see new business in town, but I think as Don's inferring, with a year gap, we've had serious concerns about your seriousness in moving forward on this and letting it drag on. And I think with both Michael and Don said so far, what our interest is certainly mine, is when are you going to complete the work that we get all the reports from fire and building
Right.
and health?
Well,
What's your schedule on that? I just would also point out, I have low interest on going into the past. That sounds like you're looking
Right.
for a reason to sue the previous owner.
no.
But that's not what we're at. We want to be sure it gets started now, so. Can you give us a firm schedule?
Well,
what you hope
as
to
far as
accomplish?
being serious on it, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Well over $300,000 has been invested already. We're paying rent, taxes, every other bill that is required there is being paid. So if we weren't serious about it, we would have walked away a long time ago. As far as a date goes, we don't have a firm date until we meet with the general contractor, but we definitely are on target to open within the next 60 days or so. That's what we're looking at. Because I think it's gonna take that long, perhaps, to get the inspections done. I'm saying, and that's the, I would say that's the worst case scenario in this matter.
Is your intent in the 60 days to replace the septic?
May I,
Because last time, I think
Sure.
a year ago,
so,
Hang on.
we made some compromise to let you serve paper plates and so on to, in on your food
Yeah,
service
that was
operation.
required by the health department, yeah. They were very specific about that only
So you're
paper
gonna answer the
plates
question on the
and
septic?
plastic, and
Yes.
that's what we're going to do, exactly what was done before. There'll be no, no frylators, no stoves, no food preparation, just what was done there before. I mean, one thing we did do, I mean, it alleviates a little bit maybe, is in the men's rooms, we put in waterless
water
urinals.
conservation and stuff.
I mean, which
that
helps a
would
little bit, but I'm
alleviate
just saying.
the septic issues.
I mean, we're all on board with that. We know it needs, for what we really want to do with this and why all that money's been invested, we know it needs a new septic system. We don't want to long-term do what the Irish pub did. We want to open it like that for a year, just to kind of get a little bit of cash flow in there, and then we'll move forward to bring it to the status that we say in our business plan. We want this to be a place there that the people in Harwich and tourists and residents really are proud of. We think that place could be a great restaurant, a great outdoor use, or a farmer's market on a
I'm gonna
Saturday.
cut you off.
All right, I'm
Now we're
sorry.
rambling.
Yes, thank you.
Mr.
So,
Chairman? Identify for the record, please.
Thank you. Identify yourself.
Nicholas Fiorello,
Okay, go ahead.
partner, Chase Escape LLC. So as far as the septic, its existing status, and when we came to the town, I think December 2020, and the plan that was attached to the business plan with the Board of Health was with the approval that we had in hand. We were going to reopen with the existing menu that was provided, which is, we call it like quick serve or grab and go, that it was going to be prepared off-site. Very limited menu, lobster rolls, just New England Cape Cod fare that wasn't going to be prepared or tax the septic system. And we went and received approval from the Conservation Commission. We did our site plan. We actually staked out our future septic. I'm happy to report the landlord and I, in the lease, have an agreement to share the expense of it, which we will know will be excessive. But our plan was always to kind of, get the plane out on the runway and get it up to altitude. Unfortunately, we were all dealing with the impacts of COVID, the start and stops and supply issues last season. Unfortunately, Tom got sick towards the end of the season. And we plan on revisiting, and Tom mentioned.
I might be able to help move this along. I remember all that. My question
Yes.
is, because of delay, has that time frame changed? Do you
So-
plan to
so-
move up the septic system? to
Yeah,
meet
so,
all-
so I think we're just, if we would be revisiting the septic sometime. Hopefully, we can get this facility open, and in the next, 12 months, we're definitely gonna pursue a permanent septic, which we know is above ground, to accommodate what will hopefully be a much bigger, grander facility that it maybe once was when Captain Chase had it, where it's a formidable restaurant, inn, and place
Okay,
where people
yeah,
can get.
You've answered my question. Thank you.
Right, it's important. The septic system is what it is.
I'm gonna cut you off, and I apologize, especially after the last meeting, but we're rambling. We're not here to talk about the septic
Right.
system. We wanted an update. 3 months from tonight, thereabouts, you're gonna be back before us to give another update. We don't make Board of Health decisions on septic systems, and they don't make decisions on liquor licenses. So I'm gonna ask the board members to keep this on track on liquor license stuff only. We've got the update. I appreciate the update, but let's not talk about what we're going to do anymore. We've heard enough, respectfully, but we're not making Board of Health decisions. There's public records now, and if you read tonight's packet, there's a memo in the packet from the Board of Health, from the Fire Department, from the Building Commissioner, and I suggest you read those
Yeah,
and
I
share
haven't
them
seen
with
that.
your general contractor. Because what was promised last year on the septic with what you were doing may not be available from the Board of Health this year. And I would tell you that statewide, last week we heard our 40-year wastewater management plan we have to do in 20 years. So things change. But for tonight's purposes, let's keep this on track. It was for an update from the Liquor Licensing Authority on when you're gonna open. And 3 months from now, you're gonna be back before us, and then the board will make a decision that night on what we're gonna do based on where you're at. Fair? Mm-hmm. Mary? Larry, anything further?
No, I should do it.
Mary?
Mr. Paulini,
Hi.
I'm glad that you are in better health and are
Thank you.
able to be here, so
Thanks.
that's important. I'll be honest, there's a little bit of a credibility issue with some of the things that were said on the last go-around. So I'm hoping your opening in 60 days is real, because we're on a time frame with the ABCC, and that's all I have to say.
Well,
Go ahead.
Okay,
it is quite
it
public.
is quite real.
We have a septic. The septic was there when we applied for the license. You granted the license to sell alcohol with that septic. The septic still remains. Our license was renewed this year with that septic. We all know that it's been grandfathered. We all know that 60 days,
No
if we
such thing
didn't.
as grandfather with Title V or septic.
Well,
But-
we'll,
But let's not talk about
We'll-
it. What I just said, I
speak with the
meant,
health
and I'll
department.
end the public,
Yeah.
I'll end it right now.
we'll speak with the
Okay,
health
listen.
Leave it
department.
alone.
Listen, excuse me. This is a
You
public
really
forum.
wanna get thrown out again?
You can't
You
interrupt
don't-
me in
and you don't-
mid-sentence,
yeah,
sir.
I can too.
No,
I'm
you
the chairman
can't.
of the Board of Selectmen. I'm running the meeting.
This is a
Don't-
public meeting. You cannot throw me out when I'm speaking,
Kevin?
sir.
He's gotta go.
No,
You gotta go.
Excuse me. I will leave. Let's go. Okay? Public meeting, this will leave as an appealable issue.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Thank you.
No, it's
I
okay.
may.
He can leave.
Public hearing.
No, what he says doesn't matter.
it's my understanding that you're invoking your right under the Public Records Law as the presiding officer
Correct.
to maintain decorum at a meeting, which is your lawful right.
Correct. Julie, Mary, you all set?
I am all set.
Julie?
Mr. Polini, again, I would reiterate that I'm glad you're in better health and that you're here this evening. You said that you have a meeting with your general contractor scheduled.
We've already met, but we have another one, yes.
Okay, so
Several,
when is the time frame for your next meeting to get moving on?
Thursday
Thursday.
morning, yeah.
So you're gonna meet Thursday, and you anticipate being able to make all the corrections you need to make to be able to open within 60 days,
That's what we anticipate, yes.
based on the building code requirements, based on, and again, not that we're talking
Well,
about.
the septic, now, if the septic becomes a big issue, we obviously could not put a septic in 60 days.
Right.
Because that's the approval, putting a septic in, as the contractor told us, is a week. The approval is 6, 8 months, 10 months, especially being in a watershed and all of that. So I guess I'd have to put that caveat in as far as the septic.
And that's really where I'm going with my question, is
right.
there's
I mean,
multiple hearings that you have to file.
Let's
for.
say, for the sake of answering the question and making it, let's say that we're okay with the septic, with what we want to do now, then we definitely anticipate being open in 60 days.
Based on your general contractor's ability to
Right.
do any work required.
Right. 'Cause
Have
we're not-
you-
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So this is sort of a difficult question for you to answer and for me to even ask, because currently we don't have a building commissioner. But have you met with building?
Not yet, no. That's what the new contractor will. He had met with him before, but not for about, and I'm guessing here, about a month maybe. That's a guess. I'm not.
So, okay, so I mean, to me.
But that was a previous general contractor.
Previous commissioner.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
So, I mean, to me, going back to the liquor license and the issues that we're here tonight to discuss, and for real reasons with the ABCC, you know, the 60 days seems pretty ambitious to me, because there's building commissioner meetings or building department meetings that need to happen. Fire department is involved in that review, as well as their own feedback that they've provided, never mind the health department, never mind the septic system, in terms of whatever health gives you on that and what's required. Because according to the information, an upgrade is required, and you also have conservation filing that you would have to have done prior to even your septic application going into health. So you've got a lot of regulatory permitting to do, and that is an impact to ABCC.
Conservation is if there's any changes to the building.
No, it depends on where your septic is going as well.
Well, that's a whole, if we need a new septic, then, absolutely.
Right, 'cause
Oh,
then-
absolutely, yeah.
Right.
But I guess I was just speaking about if the status is quo.
Yeah, because you've
Yeah,
got the buffer
right, yeah,
zones and
absolutely,
Riverway and all
No,
that.
we're aware of all, yeah,
So
so-
that's my, those are
I've
my
been in this
questions.
business 40 years. I know what inspections take and what they, I've had a liquor license in 8 different communities in Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm.
I know what a fire inspection is, I know what a building inspection is, I know what a health inspection is.
And I don't doubt that you know
In 60
any
days,
of
we are
those.
absolutely would be able to conform with that in the condition the building is now.
Currently. And so, just, my background is permitting and regulatory for a construction company as well. And I can tell you that getting on agendas for these meetings takes time, because you've got deadlines to meet. You know, some boards are meeting monthly, some are conservation's twice a month, I mean, well, technically. So you have a lot of different deadlines, and they impact your liquor license as well. So I'm just pointing those things out to you, and that was my question, is when are you meeting? When is your contractor gonna be ready to do the work so that you can open? That's the direct impact to your liquor license.
As for the impact to our liquor license, I'll reserve comment on that,
Okay,
okay?
thank you.
To a future date if we need.
Joe, anything to add?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think with Mr. Paulini here, you may wish to inquire of him of the town's various attempts, going back to March, April, May, June, of trying to make contact with the establishment. Soon after your hearing, 3 months earlier, Mr. Paulini allegedly, because it was an email, we don't know who the sender was, but contacted Selectman Kavanaugh. Selectman Kavanaugh sent the email to administration, and we used that to reach out to the sender, because we had been receiving notices returned for no such address or no service allowed when the town was trying to provide notice to the establishment. There's email trails going for 2.5 months that only ended after the town became aware of a final forward address that we were able to obtain through the Secretary of State's office. That is to say that Mr. Paulini, his partner, and their corporation have been negligent in providing the town with an appropriate legal mailing address. And it has gone on for several months. So one of the things we'd want to get cleared up tonight is if Mr. Paulini would state for the record what they consider to be their legal mailing address, because the 3 prior addresses that they gave were all returned as non-deliverable.
Thank you, Joe. Mr. Delaney.
What addresses are non-deliverable? What is this This is a side.
Are you denying
This is a.
are you denying the email exchanges?
Yeah.
Okay.
Am I denying, what? I'm sorry, what? Well, then I wasn't notified of the last meeting. You want to do that then? If you're saying that these emails don't pertain, are not legal, then last meeting, I was required to be here, okay? Where you started the revocation of this license. I was not here. I was not notified. You want to go back there? I will. But I don't know what you're talking about, the addresses.
What's your address?
126 Main Street, West Harwich.
No, that's the establishment address. What
Yeah,
is the address for mailing records?
That's the mailing.
It is not.
I got mail there today. I got FedEx and a UPS delivered
So,
today.
Mr. Chairman, one of the things that the establishment has done is filled out a legal affidavit known as the application, where they provided other addresses. If
The other one is Kales
If I
Way.
may, Mr. Chairman?
3 Kales Way.
If I may, Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm speaking to the board.
Yes.
That there are copious records that an email registered to Thomas J. Paulini at Gmail is a successor email to, quote, Casino Wharf. There was an email received by Select Member Kavanaugh from Casino Wharf from a writer claiming to be Mr. Paulini.
And I sent that.
And then the town sent notice of return request receipt required and heard nothing. And then the town received a voluminous request for records going back 15 years, which the Records Access Officer is presently handling on behalf of the town, and was asked again, what is the legal address? They have not provided a legal address whereby service has been allowed. The question remains, through you, Mr. Chairman, to the manager of record or anyone on behalf of the applicant and licensee as to what is considered. And I would recommend that they should submit that in writing to the administration on behalf of the board. But at present, we do not have one.
Thank you.
It's 3 Kales Way.
Did you handle that in writing tomorrow?
Yes, I will, but I think I submitted that to you, Joe.
So 3 Kales Way has been returned as undeliverable, no service, no address. It's our understanding through the police department that address is vacant and has been foreclosed upon.
Thank you, Joe. So tomorrow you'll get an email to
I'll give you,
the
another-
administration?
yeah,
Okay.
I'll give you my home address.
Well, all we want is a legal address where you're
Yeah,
gonna get
that's
these
fine.
notifications and things won't get bounced and our
Right.
staff won't be wasting their time.
Right.
All right, anything further?
Mr. Chairman, I would just state for the record that in the packet, you have materials that were submitted by the Health Department, the Fire Department, the Conservation Department, the Building Department, which was 2 documents, as well as minutes from the last public hearing. You also received this evening 2 documents presented by Mr. Paulini. For the record, the first one is dated July 11, 2022, with a title of Public Hearing Update to the Board of Selectmen. It is a 1-page document. And then lastly, you received a 2-page document this evening from Mr. Paulini that indicates business plan, Cape Cod Summer House, FKA Irish Pub.
Thank you, Dave. In the meeting packet, which you have access to, it's published on our website. I would recommend you read these memos from the various department heads. Again, tonight's hearing for us is on the liquor license, not on anything else. I would ask that you
Right,
send,
but the update pertains to what's going on there.
I appreciate your
Right.
update, and thank you, and I hope that you're right and you get
Right.
open in 60 days. If it's not 60 days, I hope that you would continue to work with the local licensing authority, but in 3
Well,
months.
Yeah, without a doubt, if it's, yeah.
3
like I
months, we're
said,
gonna do
a
the
lot
same.
has been invested there.
I know, I'm
And
sure.
you just can't
Yeah.
walk away, you know,
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, big thing is communication, and it doesn't seem like we're getting through.
well, I was given, all right, I was given that light.
Provide that, read the memos, and then we'll have you back in a few months.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Joe, by way of a new meeting, 3 months from tonight,
So the board could meet on Tuesday, October 11th to further discuss the matter in
you
question.
need a motion to continue the public hearing until,
I think that would be appropriate.
Don?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Can I just ask a quick question?
Go
So
ahead.
at that time,
Stand up, get back up here. Unfortunately, people at home can't see.
sorry
you.
about that.
That's okay.
So at that time, a further update and see if we're open, and that's what the next step is, right?
Next step is for the board to have the conversation on where you're at.
Where we're at, yeah.
Yes.
Sort of like tonight, too. Right.
We, you know, it's, this board hasn't, you mentioned a little while ago that to start the process of taking your license. We don't want to take your license, we want you to
I
be
know,
open.
I know.
It's
yeah.
our obligation
I know.
for you to open and for us to do this.
I understand that totally.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next public hearing notice, please.
Sure. Town of Harwich, notice of public hearing, July 11th, 2022, pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 83, Section 10, and Chapter 295 of the Code of the Town of Harwich. The Board of Selectmen, acting as the Town of Harwich Stormwater Authority, will hold a public hearing on Monday, July 11th, 2022, no earlier than 6 p.m. in the Griffin Room at the Harwich Town Hall, 732 Main Street, Harwich, Mass. 02645. O'Laughlin Family Realty Trust, Judith A. Lonergan, trustee, as owner, seeks a local stormwater permit application filed pursuant to the Town of Harwich Comprehensive Stormwater and Illicit Discharge Regulations for a proposed 6-lot definitive subdivision plan. The property is located at 16 Squantum Path, 98 North Westgate Road, Assessors Map 78, Parcel G10. All abutters and others interested parties are invited to attend. For further information, please call the administration office at 508-430-7513, signed by the Board of Selectmen and published in the Cape Cod Chronicle, June 30th, 2022.
Thank you, Mary. Public hearing's open. Joe?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, to you and members of the board. First in the packet, you'll see the memorandum from the Assistant Town Administrator addressed to you folks and myself. This memo corresponds with Agenda Item V, Presentation Public Hearing B, Public Hearing Stormwater Permit Application as submitted by O'Laughlin Family Realty Trust. The rest of it goes on as it was just indicated by Member Anderson. In the memo itself, it reads that the subdivision has been reviewed and approved by the Harwich Planning Board on April 14, 2022, and the decision memo is attached. The stormwater permit application was received via email on June 9th, 2022, and is determined to be complete for review on June 23rd, 2022. The town requested the services of VHB, who were requested for the purpose of peer review of the stormwater permit application on June 28th, 2022. Public hearing is scheduled that you're now in. The peer review report from VHB is also attached. And last but not least, Ms. Eldridge recommends that at the conclusion that this public hearing be continued to Monday, July 25th, 2022. So I would next, Mr. Chairman, suggest that you call upon representatives from VHB, who was the town's vendor, to provide review of the applications.
Thank you, Joe. Who's online from VHB that wishes to talk?
It's me, Kelly Siri, Water Resource Specialist at VHB.
Good evening, Kelly.
Good evening. So we had a few comments on the submittal. Just to highlight a few of them, I believe the applicant got the comment letter. So our main comments are the stormwater and erosion control report is missing the calculations for the removal of total phosphorus from the stormwater BMPs that are proposed. So we would like to see those calcs as that's required by the stormwater regulations. Also in our review of the appendices associated with the report, the Appendix D has an error in the HydroCAD model, which may be causing some errors to occur in the flow rate leaving the infiltration basins in the 100-year storm event and the 25-year storm event. So we wanted those to be addressed. The stormwater regulations also require a signed and stamped by a PE Mass DEP checklist for the stormwater report, and the construction general permit notice of intent and SWIP should be attached to the report.
Thank you, Kelly. Anyone here from the applicant? Up to the mic or
Yes,
up
my
to-
name.
Oh, go ahead.
My name's,
That's the
sure,
gentleman.
good evening.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead,
Can you
Jay.
hear me? Yep, good evening. I'm Jay Thrasher. I'm the civil engineer who put this design together. My colleague Tim Wisnick's also on the line. We're with Robiel Water. We've received those comments. We've gone through them. To us, there's just a few punch list items that we can update and resubmit. My one question would be, what format would you like that response to those comments in a memorandum, or would we like to schedule a phone call?
Kelly?
I think a memo would be fine, just responding to the comments by number to address them. They should be pretty straightforward, I would believe.
Yeah, we feel pretty confident we can turn that around fairly quick. I'm assuming this is not the forum to have that conversation. Is that right?
That is correct.
So we'll just put that in a memo. No problem.
Thank you. So you're okay, I guess I would ask the applicant, I think that's, you okay with the extension to the 25th?
Yeah, that gives us plenty of time to put all this back together and
Yes.
resubmit.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to continue this public hearing till the 25th, no earlier than 6 PM?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
May I ask one last question before I sign off?
Go ahead.
If all things considered go well with our resubmission, what should we expect for that meeting?
Well, the public's gonna have a chance to weigh in. Because it's an incomplete packet, I'm not sure that we should be debating this tonight. One gentleman in the front row raised his hand, so I am gonna recognize him, so I'd stay on the line. But the public has a chance to weigh in on this at that meeting.
Great, thank you.
Go ahead.
Hi, my name is John Schiller, and I live at 12 Squantum Path. I have some questions. I had received, I'm in a butter, and I received a notice and said, which said to call if you had questions. And I was advised that the way to get my questions answered is to come here.
Thank you.
Okay? So I'm not an expert on any of this stuff. I just live at 12 Squantum Path. But I do have a question.
Hang on one second, sir. Go ahead.
So my understanding is the board just voted to continue the hearing. If you wish to hear from this gentleman this evening, you should vote to reconsider, rescind, reopen. Otherwise, it would be more appropriate to have this gentleman and others come back on July 25th when the application is complete.
Can I get a motion to rescind?
So moved.
Second.
We just made a motion to rescind the recommendation to continue the hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Go ahead. I would like the engineers to get a
Thank you.
chance to
Yep.
Thank you.
have these questions to bring back to us next week.
Right, thank you.
Go ahead.
So in looking at the material that was provided, there's something there called a drainage easement. When I called the offices, I inquired as to what is a drainage easement, and I was told to come here to find out. So that's my first question, is if someone could please explain to me what is a drainage easement, because according to the maps that were provided, it looks like it's right next to my property. So that's my first question.
Does anyone online have an answer to what a drainage easement is?
We can take a shot at that. What was your name again, sir?
John Schiller.
John Schiller. And you're off of Squantum Path?
Yes, I live at 12, right next to the property that's being developed.
Is there a way I can share my screen on this meeting, or we're not there yet?
We might not be there, but we're gonna look.
Okay.
Hang on.
Well, Squantum Path is, I think this is true north. Let me just double check. Yeah, true north on the site. All water is, if you look at the topo, it's all draining essentially south towards Westgate Road. Oh, I was given an option to share. Here we go. So this is Squantum Path up here to the north. John, are you which lot are you? To the
The next
left
lot.
where my cursor is?
The lot to the left.
Right there, okay.
No, the lot to the left. Your
Even
other
further
left, that one.
here?
That one.
Is that one?
And the drainage
Okay, so-
easement is below that lot.
All right, so we're gonna scroll down real quick to the,
Yeah,
okay, so this drainage easement, that we're showing here is in the proposed lot 5, which is part of the owner's 6 acre lot that is currently, I'm not sure if you can see this, this boulder line here. This is his property bound. So if this is your rectangular lot here,
correct.
will not be impacted by that drainage easement. It's basically designating this area of this future lot, whoever, puts a house here, to say, you can't make alterations to this section of your land because we are using it for our stormwater infrastructure.
Sorry, could you repeat?
but
You're
it's-
using it for what?
Stormwater infrastructure. So this, again, is not on your property, but if you'd like to know what we're going to put there, I can scroll down here, and we are putting in bioretention areas, which are, this is again that drainage easement, the dashed line here. This is your property over here where my cursor is on the upper left.
Mm-hmm.
And these are going to be bioretention areas. This is a departure from kind of the old conventional stormwater thinking of standing water retention ponds. There'll be no standing water. These will be planted and maintained landscaped beds that essentially hold and infiltrate water during a storm event. So there's a couple trees in here, some bushes, and we have a cut section of that. It's kind of what it looks like down here. So this is what you'll be potentially seeing from your lot.
Okay. All right, so there's no open or standing water at all?
That's correct.
Okay. So, from your perspective, then, there is no impact at all on, there would be no impact at all on our property at all?
No, oops, let me just go back up.
And a related question, we do have well water, so, part of my question is there any impact on that?
Yeah, no, this is actually, all things considered, good for groundwater because we have a oil and grit separator. This is not black water. This is not wastewater with fecal coliform. This is purely runoff from impervious areas. And we have a catch basin and an oil and grit separator that cleans much of that water before it actually ends up into these infiltration areas that then just percolate back down to groundwater. So the whole point of stormwater is to keep the groundwater table recharged as best we can. But let me answer your question about if it's going to impact your property. So again, this is, that's not a good one. Sorry, tell me if I'm moving too quick. Right here. So this is your property corner here. Let me see if I can.
Correct. And our well is fairly near that corner.
Yeah, so this is your property corner.
Right.
So no impact, we're not proposing any easement on your property, so there'll be no impact there. And in terms of the well water, like I said, this is not wastewater. This is just rainwater runoff.
I see. Okay. I appreciate that. Thank you. I have one other question. I actually don't know if it's appropriate or not, so you can tell me that. We have well water. This is town water. If at some point in the future I'd be interested in tying into town water, am I able to do that or request an easement or things like that? Because I'm obviously right next to where this is taking place, and I'm relatively new to well water as I moved to Harwich just last year.
That would be a question for our water superintendent, Dan Pelletier. I would just reach out to him and ask if that's possible.
And he determined whether it's possible to do that?
It would start with Dan, definitely.
Okay, I'll get the name afterwards. I had trouble hearing.
Water superintendent.
Water and superintendent.
Yeah, and his name is Dan. You can get him at the water department.
Great. I think those are all my questions. Thank you very much. I appreciate it, and thank you.
And Julie?
Jay, I have a question. You said that these bioretention areas are maintained. Who's maintaining them? Who's responsible for that?
The owner is, so we issue as the designer a comprehensive operations and maintenance manual, and it comes down to the owner and the town enforcing it.
So when you say the owner, I thought you said that other parcel where you're putting that easement would not be able to do anything because of that easement, and you're doing the drainage there. So they're also then responsible for maintaining those plantings?
I'm not sure of how this is getting legally put together. If these are condos, if this was a condo association, then it'd be part of the HOA to maintain the catch basin. I mean, this is fairly standard stuff. Let me just try to use this. I want to show you what else is going on here that also requires maintenance, and something that you might be familiar with. So there's a lot of lines here, so bear with me, but essentially this is the road that's being proposed, and there's catch basins. So, cast iron grates, you've seen them on the sides of the road all over the place. Mm-hmm. Those catch basins are a sump that are intended to collect solids, any leaf debris from entering these dry wells. So that's all infrastructure. This is all infrastructure that needs to be maintained. And as the engineering firm that designed this, we put together the O&M. It's required by the town to put that together. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I don't know how this is getting turned over and who's responsible for that.
Okay, so.
Mr. O'Laughlin to answer that?
Do you have any background on that?
The lots will be single-family home subdivisions, and the road, if it gets accepted by the town, would become a town road. So everything along with it is maintained by the town because they're coming up to your standards that you require. Now, as for the drainage easement that was created up at the top is on a person's private property. So I don't know how to answer you on that part. It might be part of the deed requirement when he purchased the lot, or he or she purchased the lot. But this is fairly new to me, this type of drainage.
Joe?
Can we just get a name?
You could think about it as a
sorry,
typical
would you state your name for
retention
the record?
pond. So
State your name.
Michael O'Laughlin.
Thank you. Jay, go ahead.
sorry about that. I was going to say, Michael, you just kind of think about it as as a typical retention pond. Same with these dry wells down here. They all have easements that, as Michael said, become the responsibility, it sounds like, of the town. And then the owners of these private properties, in the deed, are not allowed to alterate those areas of the property.
Go ahead, Julie.
So I think, and we should follow up with the town, but Link and others, I don't think the town is accepting more private roads. I think that's a closed deal. So again, not that the town should take on that responsibility, but if these are private roads, these questions should be answered. We should know who's maintaining these things, and, you know, we've got water and we're doing these retention areas, which is great, but we want to know what the impact is if it's tying into any kind of town water. We're already trying to treat our water. We don't want more problems. So I just think we need to understand it better, so we can know that at the next hearing.
Don?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wouldn't be prepared to vote for anything unless I saw the legal document delineating whose responsibilities are whose ongoing. The last one, I mean, I was on the planning board. We did a ton of these types of drainage alternatives systems, swales and other things. But I can't recall ever, Stop and Shop is one, I can't recall ever accepting responsibility for the town to maintain them. I'd like to see language, because we'd be accepting an obligation that would be ongoing in perpetuity.
Jay, you have those questions that we'll be looking for answers for on the 25th?
Yeah, I have a few questions myself, just so I know how to be prepared for that meeting.
Go ahead.
That, you know, I'm okay to, you know, this is gonna go in town's responsibility, and there's a preference on what is used, because it's inevitably gonna be their responsibility to maintain it. That's a conversation I'm open to having. In terms of the legality, I'm only the stormwater engineer, but my understanding is that that was approved when it was approved by the planning board when they accepted that street back in April. Is that
So,
not correct?
so the planning board, you know, I'm sure you did all your regulatory filings at the planning board and they approved your plan, but that doesn't mean they've accepted the street from the town's perspective of taking on the, you know, the care of that street. So we can also go back to the planning board to understand what they technically approved, but, you know, in terms of your drainage easements and such, I do not believe that your approvals mean that the town is maintaining those things, but we can also internally follow up in preparation for that meeting, and I would suggest you guys do the same, because that's not my understanding, and it's not my understanding that when subdivisions are applied to and approved by the planning board, they're approving the regulatory nature of the planning that's going into those residential lots. But ultimately, that road is the responsibility of the homeowners association. I think that they stopped taking roads in 2010.
Thank you.
So-
And those questions were directed to Joe for the planning board
Right,
information?
to get the
And
planning
the
boards.
DPW director?
Right,
Thank you.
thank you.
So Jay, we'll work on our end to get some answers on our end, but I believe that, you know, since you mentioned that maintenance was gonna be required in this retention pond, this board, acting as the stormwater authority, is gonna be looking for your maintenance plan on that retention pond as well as the drainage on the road.
Right, and that was included with the packet. The maintenance plan is in there. And again, it's not just the bioretention areas that need maintenance. It's stormwater infrastructure. Every catch basin needs maintenance. It's
Right, so you're gonna need to work with your client and find out who that is, because we heard tonight that it might be the town, and we're saying it's probably not gonna be the town.
okay.
Larry, any further questions?
No, the questions are answered. I agree with Julie. We put a moratorium on accepting rolls because of financial concerns primarily. So we need to sort that out.
Mary?
I have nothing.
Great. Anyone else in the public before we close the hearing again? Okay, now
Will we continue the hearing?
continue the hearing. Joe?
This may be relevant, Mr. Chairman, but in your packet, in the planning board decision of April 14, 2022, under their findings, under item number 12, it states a permit or approval from town DPW will be needed to allow new road access from Miskell Drive to North Westgate Road. And then there's further references to town approvals. So I would argue on behalf of the town that the planning board's findings that's presented on April 14th to present do not bind the town to a new way, because as you know, that would be a specific act of the board acting through its various departments. So I do not read it the same way as others may assume it right now, so we will certainly vet that with council and with departments.
Thank you. Don?
I'm the liaison to the planning board, and I participated in that meeting, and I know of no implication that we were assuming the road and the responsibility for the maintenance of it.
Thank you. Okay, can I get a motion to continue the hearing until July 25th?
I move that we
No earlier than
could,
6?
I motion that we continue the meeting at July 25th, no later than 6 PM.
No earlier.
No earlier than 6 PM, sorry.
Second.
Moved and seconded.
I want to go home.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Thank you. All right, we're going to skip the consent agenda for a moment. We're going to bring up new business A, which is award the contract for the sale of 203 Bank Street. Joe, do you want to go through your recommendation to the board?
Certainly, just give me one quick moment to catch up, Mr. Chairman. So first, you will see in the packet a memorandum that I provided to the board, a copy of the Assistant Town Administrator, indicating that the issues or outstanding questions that existed at your meeting on June 27th no longer exist. Additionally, as I told you that evening, I would be scheduling interviews with representatives from the two prospective bidders. I have conducted those interviews and therefore consider the process to be complete. So the final conclusion on that, Mr. Chairman, is that it is my recommendation that you, the Board of Selectmen, vote to award the successful bid and purchase of 203 Bank Street to the proposal provided by Harwich Fire Association Incorporated and the Harwich Conservation Trust. While both proposers were responsive and responsible bidders, the joint proposal offered by HFA and HCT, in my opinion, offer the greatest overall value to the town because a lot of what both parties wanted to accomplish was further along in the process for that proposer.
Thank you.
I'd be welcome to any questions.
Start with Mary since she started last week, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I tried to do this 2 weeks ago. Do you want me to make a motion now?
Okay, you can go ahead and make a motion, we'll go to comment after.
I move that we award the contract for the sale of 203 Bank Street to the Harwich Fire Association, Inc., HFA, and the Harwich Conservation Trust, HCT,
At
Second.
at
203 Bank.
at 203 Bank
for
Street.
for the amount of.
Oh, for the amount of, it's not there,
300,000.
300,000.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded, comments, Larry?
Thank you, Michael, and good presentation, and we got a big crew here tonight. When I first read the proposals, I was inclined to support the other proposal, and my reason for that is that it included an apartment, housing. And I would still like for you folks to consider that. We talk about housing, seems like every other meeting, and yet we never take any action to do something about housing. And I thought this is an opportunity to throw something out there. And when I read your documents, I don't think what you're doing would prevent a look at including an apartment up there to give us, not much, but one more housing that we know we need. I had a discussion today that concerned about housing, we're gonna start putting homeless up here. Well, we don't. We need housing, I know for a fact, for nurses, for firemen, for policemen, and so I wanna be consistent and always put housing in this discussion. So that's my plea for you to consider, and I think you understand where I'm coming from.
Mary?
I had a conversation with Mr. Young, who's in the audience tonight, because that was my concern as well. Although their proposal was obviously much stronger and better researched, there was no mention. But Mr. Young assured me that they had already talked about an apartment and didn't put it in the proposal. They don't have it thoroughly fleshed out yet, but that is their intention.
Thank you, Mary. Don?
Nothing other than I followed Mary's comments from the last meeting, and this proposal was far more detailed. The other one talked about you can't give ranking preference on an RFP for someone who intends to do something that they might be able to figure out. This was well detailed.
Julie?
Yeah, I would echo those comments. I think it's a great proposal. I also love the fact that it's a two-prong approach. It's doing two different things for our town, and it's great to see people working together. I also think it's great if we could get an apartment there, so that would be just sort of the trifecta of all of it. But I'm very much in favor of it.
I'm also in favor of it. I do want to thank Leo Kukunis for his bid on the property. I think it was a good bid, but this makes sense. It makes sense because of the restoration project we're about to do next door, the walking trails that are out there, and because it is the old firehouse. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Thank you all.
Before they leave, does anyone care to make a comment on the housing for me? Before I let this die. Thank you, Bruce.
I just have just a short thing I'd like to say first, and then I'll address the housing. Good evening. Bruce Young, I'm the president of the Harwich Fire Association. Mr. Chairman, members of the Select Board, Mr. Town Administrator, representative of the Harwich Conservation Trust, my brothers and sisters at Local 2124 and the Harwich Fire Association, and those here in attendance. I truly believe that this is the best offer going forward for the town and its residents and visitors. This piece of property will be left as open space forever. I never realized how many people on a daily basis use this property, but there is traffic in and out of there all day long. We normally protect lives and property. I think this is the first time that we're part of preserving a piece of property, and this feels just as rewarding. The Harwich Fire Association is looking forward to begin working with the Harwich Conservation Trust, the town, and most importantly, the neighbors of 203 Bank Street as we move forward from a conceptual design to a finished plan. It's not very often that a fire association gets to purchase its former firehouse. We are extremely excited to get working on this project. The association has a lot of fundraising to do, but we're up to the challenge of getting this project under the way. Mr. Chairman, when I approached you about 2 years ago asking to hold off on demolishing the old Bank Street Fire Station, you probably thought I had finally lost my mind.
No comment.
I told you that the association might have an interest in purchasing this property and housing the town's first motorized fire apparatus, and to make this into a museum and to convert the second floor into learning space for possibly EMT and EMTB refresher classes. We have come a long way in 2 years. This building holds a lot of sentimental value as it's been part of my whole life growing up in Harwich, from my dad taking me there as a young boy to delivering the newspaper there to the station as a kid, to being a call firefighter when I was still in high school. There are a lot of memories in this building for a lot of people. There have been tears of joys, tears of sadness. There have been lessons learned, lessons taught, all to make the men and women of the Harwich Fire Department the best it can be. We will look forward to the next phase of transforming this truly unique piece of property. The 100th anniversary of the Harwich Fire Department is coming up in the year 2028. Our goal would be to have this completed by this anniversary. On behalf of all the members of the Harwich Fire Association, I would like to thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Select Board, Mr. Town Administrator, for supporting this joint venture. Thank you.
I think this is worthy of a round of
I do
applause,
too.
too.
Mr. Valentine, this part about housing, when I did talk to Mary, we're looking at, we house 5 people up there 24/7, 365 days a year, and I told her that we're having such a hard time finding housing for any new fire recruit, police recruit, that we'd probably take one of the old bunk rooms, convert that into an apartment, so that if we hired a new employee, that they'd be able to stay there at a reduced rent until they could find a place to live, but it would also be someone there to help us pay the bills, the light bill, electric bill, and someone there to watch over the building too.
Okay. Thank you.
So we do have housing there as an
Critical
apartment.
need, we know, for all you folks.
Yes.
All of us.
I see that every day in the town. So it's something that we have to get back to with our membership and see what the best plan is going forward, but it's right there at the top of the agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
Thank you. So based on the board's vote to award the bid to that proposer, staff will work with town council to develop purchase and sale. So I just look to either Bruce or Mike to tell me who they want to have interact with council, and we'll get that moving.
Thank you, John. Thank you all. Consent agenda, Mary?
I move that we vote to approve.
Y'all don't have to leave.
I move that we vote to approve the consent agenda with the following items. First, to accept the following resignation: Jacqueline Pence Green from the Bikeways Committee and Pamela Grosswald from the Voter Information Committee.
Second. Oh, sorry.
To affirm the Chief of Police's recommendation of James Hensley to full-time police officer. Third, to approve the refinance request for 5 Gomes Road. And fourth, to approve the Board of Selectmen meeting minutes for the following dates, all in 2022. January 10th, February 22nd, February 28th, March 14th, April 11th, and April 19th.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as read. Any comments, Don?
Just one. I mean, while we always want to thank people who have served, and I certainly feel that way for the Bikeways service, Pam Groswald has served this town for at least 25 or 30 years that I know of on the school committee and myriad of other things. So I really appreciate, I'm sure we all really appreciate her service in the Voter Information Committee and wish her well in her future endeavors.
Absolutely. Any further discussion?
No, just totally agree.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Evaluation for Joseph F. Powers, Town Administrator. This is always a fun one. The evaluation forms are in the packet, and I would start with board members for comments on the evaluation. I would say that you got a satisfactory to very satisfactory evaluation again. I'll turn it to the board for comments, and then Joe for a comment, and we'll put this one behind us as well. Larry?
Not really. My evaluation's there. I think, Joe, you're doing a great job. I think we all have discussed publicly and privately concerns, just some opportunities on communication with department heads and residents that we've looked at. But that's doable, and we look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Larry. Mary?
I agree with Larry's comments. I think it's amazing. The thing that caught me is the list of all the articles that you have dealt with. I knew there were a lot. I did not expect, I think there were 6 pages worth of them. So I think you do an incredibly good job keeping several balls up in the air, and I'm thrilled to have you on the job.
Thank you. Don?
I largely agreed with actually Mary's written evaluation. Mine wouldn't have been coherent if I had written one during the past few weeks. The only note that I would take is it's really important as a management step that you not only know everything that everybody's doing in a technical way, but the leadership part of that is really important, and I know you're taking steps to go forward even more with that, but you are a tremendous asset to the town.
Julie?
I echo all of my fellow board mates, board members' comments, and I think you're doing a great job. You bring a lot of expertise. You do have many roles to fill in it, and I hope that, you're able to sort of take all of this and our feedback to help you even do better, and you've done a great job. And I look forward to the update on town meeting shortly.
294 days.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there
how
you
many
go.
days?
I knew
Yeah.
it was there. I knew you knew the number.
How many more days?
294 to the annual,
All right.
77 to the special.
I thought you were announcing we weren't having a special.
No, sir.
Joe, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and to your colleagues, thank you for the board members. First of all, I want to thank you for clearing the room. I appreciate that. It makes it easy to have these conversations. But all joking aside, as I've talked to you before, I take this very seriously, and I really appreciate the manner in which you've all approached it, because I know you all do too. And this exercise and the efforts that you folks have done and the effort that I will build off of your efforts are important for our town. And so I really do appreciate the time that you took and the care that you put into it. And I take your words very seriously, and I thank you. I will continue going through them, and what I'd like to do is respond with an action plan so that I can recognize some of the things that I need to continue to work on, but also ongoing projects. And so as I take this to heart, I appreciate the efforts that you put into it, and I thank the kind words that you've offered tonight. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you, Joe. I think overall it was a very successful performance evaluation. And most important, I feel like we've gotten a lot of work done over the last 2 years. Mary's comments about the list is only part of it. We could get into goals and objectives. We've accomplished an awful lot on the properties that we're looking at, but we've got an awful lot of work done, and it really reminded me of what a hole we were in before on procurement. And I think we're doing all this with a lot with department heads that are gone, a lot of vacant positions, and it's easy for some to criticize why we have so many open positions, but you really need to analyze that, and I think you've done a decent job managing the town with those vacant positions and keeping the board informed on new hires and why people are leaving. Not all of it is something you can just pick out of the air. People leave for many reasons, and I really believe you've managed it well. So, thank you.
Thank you.
With nothing else?
I think maybe we need a policy. He can only announce the dates of town meeting monthly.
Certainly not hourly.
Does it
That
scare
might
you,
be a,
Larry?
This is anxiety.
that might be a
Certainly not
policy
hourly.
inside of our policy that we have a policy on.
That was a credit, correct?
Yeah.
Approve the use of town seal in partnership with Cape Light Compact. We all read the letter. Joe, do you want to get into this at all, or just want us to take an action?
Just very quickly, that the use of the town seal is the sole purview of the Board of Selectmen. It would be inappropriate for me to have responded, and given that we had time to put this on your agenda, and it's an appropriate action for the board to either endorse or politely decline the use of the seal.
Yeah, I would just tell you my personal feelings up front. I don't think the town seal should be on something like this. I think it was appropriate for the Chamber of Commerce, but I'm not sure that we should be putting this out there, that this is something that we're endorsing. But, Don?
Oddly, that was my train of thought originally. We didn't develop it. And while I'm wholeheartedly in favor of it, it's not something that we developed to be able to deploy. I wouldn't put the seal on.
Julie?
Yeah, I would rather keep our seal off of it. I don't know that we really need to be on, although Cape Light Compact is, you know, a local entity. I just think that there's also Mass Save, there's other things out there. We wouldn't throw our stamp on that. I just kind of think it should be left alone.
Mary?
I obviously didn't think at it in those terms, but I'm gonna go with the three of you and say, yeah, good cause, but let's not put our seal on it.
Larry?
Yeah, I agree.
I had mixed emotions about it because I really do believe in the program, and I think the program does great things and it saves people money, but that's what they're there for, and they're gonna do it anyway.
Right.
It was a good partnership with the chamber last year, but I don't think the town should be just putting its seal on these things, so. With no positive motion, we just move on.
Thank you.
Discussion on proposed new liquor license fee structure and vote to hold a public hearing to implement. This is another part of trying to clean up licenses, fees, structures, tables, and Danielle, I thought, did an excellent job researching other towns. In some areas were higher, in other areas were lower, but what struck me was the formatting of the numbers. So we rounded up,
Yeah.
and in some cases rounded down, but even numbers rather than $1,914 makes more sense to me. So if the board's okay with what they're looking at, the next step would be to have a public hearing on the change of the fee structure. This wouldn't impact anyone this year. It would impact on them on the renewals next year.
Correct.
Comments, Larry?
No, I'm pleased that you didn't pretend we were so precise. And otherwise, I'm for it.
Mary?
Same. I thought it was a good proposal, good research.
Don?
I wouldn't mind if we went to 2 decimal places, but I think this is a good idea.
Julie?
No, I think it's a great job, and it really is a lot more concise, and it's just better. Thanks.
Great work by Danielle on this.
Yes.
She did a lot of homework, presented it to me, and we got it on the agenda as quick as we could. So
It's streamlined.
we will consensus to have a public hearing on this, Joe, in the near future. Or do you
Very
want?
good, so I'll have staff work on that, and that's what we're looking for. And I also want to emphasize, because I believe I'm going to say it right, but she has money that I won't. You will see that this was provided by Mrs. Freiner, which is Danielle's proper married name.
Mrs. Frank?
And I'm working very hard to make sure I said that right. My phone hasn't buzzed, so I believe I have said it right. But as the entire team does, and it certainly ties back to your earlier conversation, I think the administration team does a great job on everything we try to do. And I'm speaking specifically about Megan, Danielle, and Ellen. And certainly Danielle's efforts on licensing and to take the initiative on this, I think is outstanding.
Absolutely.
So we will move forward on a public hearing for you to go through your process of adopting the rates.
Okay. E, take a motion on E.
I move that we vote to appoint the following designees to the Community Center Facilities Committee. Ralph Smith, Council on Aging, term to expire June 30th, 2025.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? No discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous? Yeah, I can take a motion and you can do it all together, the way
Okay,
she.
all the, I move that we vote to approve the following new 2022 licenses for Round Cove Resort Beverage LLC, DBA Wequassett Resort and Golf Club, 2173 Route 28. First, the common viculars, second, the inn holders, third, weekday entertainment, 12 p.m. to 12 a.m. inside, and 12 p.m. to 10 p.m. outside, live recorded music, amplification, dancing, and last, Sunday entertainment, 12 p.m. to 12 a.m. inside and 12 p.m. to 10 p.m. outside, live recorded music, amplification, and dancing.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion, Don?
Yeah, I will say that based on their, when they came in originally, this is so comforting that there's an institutional continuity that they've developed this so that we're not taking a flyer on anything. I mean, these are largely being populated by the same people who've been running it, and they've been doing an excellent job up to this point.
Agreed. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous. Joe, old business.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. What you'll see in the packet first for update on outstanding projects. Bear with me as I get my materials together, I apologize. So what you see are several documents that tie back to any number of projects. First of all, you can see the staff update regarding Board of Selectmen minutes, Board of Selectmen executive minutes, remote participation, local planning committee, draft special town meeting, annual town meeting, open procurement in Sisson Road. First, on the selectmen's meetings, we are completely up to date as of 2 months ago, 3 months ago. May, June, July, there we go. We're 2 months in arrears, there we go. And that executive session minutes are complete as of your last meeting. With regard to remote participation,
That deserves a round of applause.
Yes, it does.
remote participation, we're waiting to see what happens. Governor Baker's guidance was set to expire July 15th, 2022. We know that there was legislation in the works, so we're waiting to see what the result of that is before I would make recommendations on the board and perhaps next steps, if anything, on your remote participation policy prior to COVID.
Thank you.
Local planning committee, I had.
Joe, 1 second.
Sorry.
Mary?
Yep.
Can I just ask a question on that?
Yeah.
Did I see something that this would require us to have all committee meetings videoed so that the public could see them? And how would we physically do that? We don't have enough meeting rooms for that.
So, if that's a reference to the proposed legislation, I haven't gone through that yet, but I do know that the concept of videotaping meetings has been around since, as long as videotapes have been around. And that is to try and get to the maximum use of covering and recording for future reference, so it wouldn't surprise me. What I'm interested to see what happens is whether there is a requirement for external applications such as GoToMeeting or Zoom.
Right.
If that becomes a permanent feature. Anxiously awaiting to see what comes out of the proposed legislation.
So this is strictly the making remote participation possible?
That's what we're expecting.
Yeah,
Correct.
okay.
Yep.
Thanks.
Go ahead.
On local planning committee, I had to explain what a doodle poll is to the team, but those of you that work in the private sector may be familiar with that. So we're gonna use that mechanism to reach out, because it is such a broad collection of individuals, to try and come up with the best date and time to start that, with an effort to certainly before Labor Day.
Thank you, Joe.
With regard to a potential special town meeting, that I've indicated that if there is going to be one, we have a target date for the end of September, which matches the moderator's schedule, the town clerk's schedule, and follows after the state primary. And so there'll be a few agenda items at your next meeting on July 25th relative to that. If I could, Mr. Chairman, annual town meeting calendar, I'd like to skip for a moment,
Okay.
just to come back to. And then you have open procurement, which was the voluminous spreadsheet that's already been referenced, that Megan Eldridge updated. that you'll remember from prior efforts, so I could be more than happy to answer that. Last but not least, on 204 Sisson Road, which I'll say is what has been referred to as the Cultural Center, the old middle school. My update is a separate memo, and I just refer to that. On July 6th, which was my first day back from vacation, was also Kara Mawini's second day back, and Kara, again, is our newly hired Director of Cultural Affairs. It was great to see her again, and great to talk with her, as brief as it was. So I have sat down with Kara and identified some goals and objectives that I've asked her to start working on, the first of which would be for she and I to meet with the tenants in the building there to give them an update of who she is and some of the plans that I have regarding analysis of the building in the short term and going forward. I think it's right and proper that we now have that sit down with the tenants. And then, of course, as I say in the memo, when we've got a member here from Capital Outlay Committee has committed to a summer schedule. I believe 5 meetings before Labor Day?
Twice a month.
Twice a month, so twice a month before Labor Day. And central among those topics, of course, is 204 Sisson Road.
Great. Thank you, Joe. Questions, comments from the board? Julie?
No, I think it's great that we're getting these dates more solidified, so we can just have a more streamlined approach. And I thank you for committing to those meetings.
Don? Mary?
No, did I miss, do we have a date for the fall meeting?
We do. I'm operating off of the date of Monday, September 26th, at a time to be determined by you folks, hopefully around 6:30. But at the next meeting, I'll be presenting formal information on that. Because there's no legal requirement to, say, open a warrant. There is certainly to close one. You could officially open the warrant on your meeting on the 25th, using that date that we have in mind.
Okay, thank you.
Larry?
None.
And Joe, obviously, with the date announcement, we're going to announce what we're considering talking about?
Correct.
Thank you.
Yep.
On the procurement, Joe, can we get an updated spreadsheet with everything completed off of it, so it's not so many pages?
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought we had done that.
And then,
Yes.
I know that was suggested by a member of the Finance Committee, I don't believe it was a vote of the Finance Committee, but just with a dollar amount next to the town meeting, if that's easily obtainable, I would certainly support having that on there. But if it's creating more work or a lot more work, then something to talk about.
Thank you. What I'd like to respond to that first is, now with the new fiscal year in place, you folks having done my regular evaluation is what I would call it, and knowing that I have several to do of my own, I'm gonna be meeting with department heads later this week, talking about the annual town meeting process, as I've told you folks, and we have the calendar to talk about in a moment. I'm gonna make sure that all of these are now tied back to the appropriate department heads, so we'd be looking for them to provide information and can come up with a more robust document, but spreading the onus on that from just beyond Megan.
Thank you. I'm sure Megan will appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Approve the new proposed annual town meeting calendar.
So thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you'll see in the packet, to that last agenda item or last update, part of the project was the annual town meeting. So in my memorandum to you folks dated Friday, I just wanted to highlight first, there are 2 key dates within this calendar, and this is not the full calendar, but this is the calendar of critical dates, meaning we're also working on what we're calling internally as a mechanical calendar. So dates that I and staff have to be aware of to meet these key dates. But within that, there are 2 dates that really I would need you, the Board of Selectmen, in concert with the Finance Committee, and then a second item of the Finance Committee to confirm. But that would first of all be the joint meeting that we've typically had, the Saturday round robin, as it was called in informal terms prior to COVID. I have a tentative date on the calendar, but that's assuming that both the board and the Finance Committee are willing to commit to that date. And then the second date would be, there's a requirement for the Finance Committee to hold a public hearing The charter talks about that. I've recommended a date, but that's really something that the finance committee, as their own entity, and of which I have no span of control over, they should confirm. Having said all that, Mr. Chairman, if you'd like, I'd like to go through the dates that are now in the calendar.
Before you get to that, Joe, does the board have a problem with Saturday, March 4th, 2023 for our joint meeting?
Nope.
If we put it in our calendars now, it might
Good to
happen.
me.
I have to check whether I have a dental cleaning appointment that's a year from now.
Mr. Chairman, as members are checking their calendars, it might be helpful if the member closest to me knew that I chose that date, because I don't think anything's happening in Yarmouth on that day. Like an Irish parade or
That's
something.
very nice of you to be looking so.
Well, that was for me. I just wanted you to be a partner in crime on that.
I'll
So I think
join
the
you.
consensus is, and I think we do need to lock this down so
Yep.
that staff can then send the recommendation that the board's available. But if we get it on our calendars now, it will happen. So March 4th is okay with the board?
Yep.
Don?
Yeah, I really don't want to slip away because I've made this comment before. The charter dates aren't you can't do it until dates. You can't do it after dates. We can certainly do anything before that we choose to. It's really important to do it like end of February, early March, because that's where the appeal is made from anybody that has some sort of outlying position that they would like to pitch to be funded. And the Finance Committee really needs some time to be able to say, okay, if you want to do that, then we need to pull the money from something and give it to that, to fund that. So they need some time to coherently think about it.
But I think a separate conversation needs to be to change the charter, because the charter dates are, as we've found for the past 3 or 4 years, it's unrealistic.
Too late.
So we need to, I think this should be part of a more global look at the charter and what needs to be changed, so,
But this makes it workable in the meantime.
yeah.
And we certainly can do it because nobody's prohibiting you pulling them back.
Joe?
Thank you. And actually, to that very point, if you look at the, what I'm calling right now the key dates for annual town meeting, yes, I've identified the date, which of course, the charter under chapter 3-1 dictates that it must be the first Monday in May, so that will be Monday, May 1st. And then I do track the number of days prior to sort of just show how it's building out. But every one of those target dates, whether it has a governance reference, which you can see in the column on the far right, every one of them is ahead of the required date in the charter. We've had that conversation many times, and I completely agree with that. So the first, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so the first 6 items you see are actually related to the team. And the team, of course, is predominantly our department heads and key committee members, committee chairs that have committees that would have these matters. But you can see that this Thursday, I have a department head meeting and we're going over this calendar, and I am formally informing department heads on that date of deliverables that they will have of preliminary documents of some level coming back to me on Wednesday, August 31st. So to accomplish that, you'll see that we'll have a department head meeting on Thursday, July 14th. We will have a second department head meeting on August 17th. And all of that is to streamline preliminary operating budget requests being due to me on Wednesday, August 31st. Preliminary capital item requests due to me on Wednesday, August 31st. Notice of proposed CPC applications due August 31st. And notice of proposed warrant articles due August 31st. And really what that's all meant to do is the next line item, which you can see is the first governed or required activity. And that is for me to provide a financial assessment to you, the Board of Selectmen. Now that date of Monday, September 19th corresponds with your meeting schedule. It is ahead of the special town meeting. That's why I didn't want to leave it that long. But it's 2.5 weeks before the official deadline. And I will be building that financial assessment off of the materials that I would have received just 3 weeks earlier from the department heads. We know a lot of the things that are gonna impact upon our finances, such as cost of living and other contracted items and things like that, but costs of articles, capital items and all of that are gonna go longer towards me giving you folks a more up-to-date and accurate financial assessment. You can see that I sneak in there, if you will, for lack of a better word, the Community Preservation Committee, or CPC Committee, their required deadline, and they always try for the first Monday in May as well. But that is also what I'm recommending for the board, be when you issue your policy on budget development. So I'm giving you a financial assessment on September 19th. You can use any number of meetings or simply the meeting in October to then finalize what you think should be the final directive, for lack of a better phrase, on how to develop the budget. Now, that is a required element of the charter, but, you have to do it formally and once, but there's many times you can talk about it. So that's where that comes into play. I've worked with Rich Larios, Chair of the Capital Outlay Committee, and he's aware that we're looking at the second Monday in December, which would be December 12th for the Capital Outlay Committee to present with me, Town Administrator, to you, Board of Selectmen, and Finance Committee on the Capital Outlay Plan. The charter simply requires that it be done in December. Then you can see the comprehensive budget that I would be submitting is about 2.5, 3 weeks ahead, I think it's about 3 weeks ahead of when I'm required to do it. And that is to give you folks more time to send it on to the Finance Committee. And then again, the Finance Committee has an obligation after they get the budget from you to hold a public hearing. The way this schedule is working out is that they would have it about almost a month after you gave them the budget, but also after that intensive meeting on March 4th, Saturday the 4th. So they can give them the time to hold that public hearing. That would also give them time to submit their recommendations to you folks. And it would give me time to finalize explanations and motions in the warrant. Explanations has been a standard thing. I've been working with Member Anderson and others on the board, but certainly Member Anderson and I discussed a full comprehensive warrant that negates the need for the motions book because it has everything in it. And so I think this calendar captures that if everything stays on track. And then, of course, the Finance Committee recommendations to the public. That's one of those items that the charter requires. It's a little bit clunky because the actual date is later than when we have to get everything done. So I'm putting that date out there on that date of April 4th because we must publish it on April 13th. The charter requirement for the FinCom to release their recommendations is much closer to town meeting. So recognizing that we want that all tied together, it's a charter requirement, so I want to make sure that we honor that, but that's what the calendar gets to.
Excellent, thank you. Questions from the board, Larry?
None, well done.
Thank you.
We have, nice to have clear objectives.
Yeah.
Mary?
Yeah, I think it's a great layout. One question, the March 9th meeting with the Finance Committee, that's joint with us, correct?
So what the charter says is that the Finance Committee must hold a public hearing. And they may meet severally and jointly with the Selectmen.
Okay.
So no one really had a sense of what severally means. We know what jointly means. So that's why I'm referring to that March 4th as a customary item. But I would argue with the backing of council that that meets the requirements. So FinCom must, by themselves, if nothing else, hold a public hearing. So that would be for the public. Whereby, excuse me, that was a cough, whereby the Saturday event would be both parties meeting with department heads.
Okay. Should I hold the 9th, and is that an all-day affair, or is that just an evening meeting?
It's traditionally been an evening of the Finance Committee.
Okay.
It's a public hearing, so it has to be noticed, it has to have at least 10 days' notice in the newspaper, et cetera, et cetera. It checks their required box. To me, the FinCom have two required boxes separate from you folks, and that is holding a hearing for the public and making recommendations that will be made public.
Okay, I'm just gonna hold it for an evening.
And they cater it.
All the better.
Don?
That was it.
You all set?
Yeah.
Julie?
I don't have any, I love having the dates, it's great.
Yeah.
Noreen?
Catering is not in the budget. Just want to put that out there before.
That's why I got up.
Thank you.
Good evening, board members and town administrator. Noreen Donahue speaking on my own behalf. I want to express my appreciation for all the work that went into this, preparing this schedule. Kudos to the town administrator. I know that the preparation for this didn't just involve him, it involved committees, changing schedules all around. But everybody, well, people here know that this has really been an important topic to me for years, because I really think that the end result is going to be a good discussion period for all of us to get ready for town meeting. So that's really all I wanted to say was thank you. So that's a little different from my usual deliveries, just so you see. I did have a question, Joe, always, you know, on that second last one, but you kind of mentioned it, but that April 4th recommendations to the public, I'm fuzzy about that as well, but I'm not concerned about it.
So if I may, if you look at that charter citation, so chapter 9 is financial chapter of the charter, and section 3, clause 3 says that the finance committee must make their recommendations on articles available to the public 10 days before town meeting. So that's a great requirement to have, but it doesn't tie to anything in reality, because we have to get the document to the Chronicle as early in April as we can, because they publish it weeks in advance.
You know, I always took that, again, here we go into interpretation, but I always took that to mean simply that the recommendations were in the warrant, and the warrant got published in the newspaper. So I didn't take that as a separate step. I took that as part and parcel of the publication of the warrant. That's just one
Sure.
woman's opinion.
What I would say is then, because it has the reference to the 10 days, we're still safe.
Right, yeah, either way, so. And one last request, if you could ever think about making anything with a little bigger print and larger spaces,
So-
you know, just a thought.
The,
How much is everything a column inch?
if I could, Mr. Chairman, through you in response, this was a proposed calendar.
Okay,
And
that's all
if
right.
approved,
Just an
it's gonna
idea.
look real pretty.
Great,
Absolutely.
thank you very much.
I take it by the positive comments, this is approved, correct?
Absolutely.
All right, so then we will enlarge it, and like I said, I think it's appropriate first for me to work with the department heads on Thursday and then send it out to committee chairs. And the timing of that is also related to, I know I'm gonna have a somewhat captive audience on July 26th. So for any committee members and chairmen that are there, they're gonna leave with this calendar again when they come to the open meeting training as well.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is also from Mrs. Freiner, our executive assistant in licensing. It's the process for show cause hearings. We've talked about it many, many times. This is formalizing it to put it into our packet with liquor regulations. Comments, Julie?
No, I think it's great to have it because we are always talking about it, so it's good reference.
Don?
Totally agree.
Larry?
Agree.
Mary?
I just wasn't sure, it says this is our current show cause hearing process. So she's not proposing changing this. She's just saying, let's
She's codifying it.
document this.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I thought it was great.
Go ahead.
If I may, though, to the question, the purpose was to present it to you folks as the licensing authority. If there's anything you saw that needed to be changed, this would be the impetus to change it. However, it's great to see it all in one compact presentation. And last but not least, it has been shared and approved by council, your council.
Yeah. This all ties back to conversations we've had. Go ahead.
And the only other question, I assume she talked to the chief.
Correct, she worked with a number of people on this, correct?
Great, thank you.
So we're fine formalizing this?
Yep.
Joe, all set?
Thank you.
And now we get to contracts. We don't have to vote these, do we, Joe, because of the value?
No, Mr. Chairman, I believe on these you do. I just want to get my materials together. So, first of all, the IMA, you would have to, because an intermunicipal agreement is not in my charge, nor should it ever be. That's between the governing body of a town
Okay.
and another intermunicipal governmental agency such as the county. So this would require a vote of the board.
Get a motion on that, Mary?
Sure, I move that we vote to approve the, I was doing Cape Light Compact. The intermunicipal agreement for information technology services between County of Barnstable and Town of Harwich, as presented. There were several dollar values in there.
It's an intermiss.
Second?
Second.
Second, sorry.
Moving to second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 5-0.
Just comment that we're happy this finally.
Yay.
Yeah, no kidding.
In place, so nice work by people involved.
I'll take a motion on B as well, ma'am.
Okay, I move that we vote to approve PK Valuation Group, Paul S. Capinos and Associates, Inc., for assessing services.
Second.
The amount
Oh,
of
sorry.
$60,000?
It must be the seat.
Second,
Second, sorry.
any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, town administrator report?
If I may, just on this one, first of all, thanks for the approval. And what you will see is that what it allows for is, it allows for our interim assessing director to continue on in however long we need. As again, we have Anne Marie Ellis joining us, our finance director, town accountant, on Friday, so she'll be part of that decision-making. But Mr. Chairman, I know for you specifically, but also the board members, you can see it also allows for staff training, title research, GIS mapping, and services that we're gonna use to kickstart what I've been referring to as the Article 39 project, which again, as you know, and the board knows, is that $500,000 effort to really ramp up the town's effort on owners unknown, tax title takings, and et cetera. So this is a great contract to really kick that off.
Thank you. Is that Rich? Town administrator's report.
Thank you. First, I just want to go through and announce several, or a few contracts at least, that I have been signing in along with the process that we've talked about, meaning you'll see that there is a municipal streetlight maintenance agreement, which covers, excuse me for 1 second. It's with Cape Light Compact, request for proposals for municipal outdoor lighting and operations maintenance. It's a bid that these folks have done for the town, meaning Cape Light Compact drafted it, and it's gonna cover the next 3 years, as they've done in the past. And there's copious information on that. You can see that we have an additional contract for CAI Technologies, which is also tied into the GIS and other mapping technologies. This is a contract that comes under the threshold. We have the fiscal year 2023 Visiting Nurse Association contract. It's about $4,000. That's an ongoing item, and that was one of the many things that we can expedite so that there's no loss of service on that through the VNA. And the rest are announcements, if I could, Mr. Chairman. First, a great personnel announcement. I mentioned before the assessing department, so I'm pleased to announce that Miss Sarah Cole, I have offered her and she has accepted a position in the assessing department. She will be the administrative assistant. Carly Jones in the office has been doing phenomenal work. She's been assisted by Gail from PK, but it's great to have Sarah join the team. And we did not steal Sarah from any town.
Unlike others.
We stole her from a vendor in town. But we thank Coastal Engineering because she's very well trained. But Sarah is a great add to staff and very excited to have her on board. Additionally, we were made aware that there is a program called Food for Kids, and it is a USDA and state and now town project. So we just want to make sure that there's a summer food service program, kitchen that serves the lower and outer Cape, and it is indicating that they have this program will be up and running for the summertime, and so that anybody who is looking for food for kids, for any sort of snack or lunch, it's going to be available from July 5th through August 26th. Snack is available from 10 to, morning snack is available from 10 to 10:30 in the morning. Lunch is available from noon to 12:45, and we should have enough to distribute to 50 to 75 children a day. You don't want to hear those numbers, but it's great to have that program available, and we're very excited. And that information came via Dr. O'Neill in the Health Department.
Does it give a location, Joe?
Sorry, it doesn't. I should have said that. This is all going to be through the Harwich Community Center. I told you folks that if you'd like a rapid at-home COVID test, if you want one, we'll give you 5 because we have plenty. They are available in the box outside the Health Department. They're available in the Town Administration Department, and they are available Health Department, Brooks Free Library, Public Safety Complex, Harwich Community Center, and the Administration Department. And then last but not least, I want to thank the board and my team. I had a wonderful vacation that allowed me to come back to work and then miss a day because of bronchitis. But great vacation, great to be back, and thank you for the time off.
Thank you, Joe. Selectmen's report, Julie?
Don't have anything.
Don?
I made it.
Larry?
Only that, I've lived in Harwich now 22 years. I can't remember it ever as being as busy as it has been this past week. There's just mobs everywhere. And, people working well, though. You know, I see lines, no one causing a hassle. I know the beach has been busy. Got reports about that, but we survived it. You know, it was a busy weekend. Only other comment, the tracer test continues very, very strong. They're happy folks there.
He grew up here, and I've been here for 32 years. You're right.
Mary?
I don't have anything, thank you.
So just along those lines, Larry, kudos to the police department.
Yeah.
I know 4th of July weekend was a lot for them, and they had 14 or 15 police officers on. Called everybody back, but there was foot patrol in Harwich Port. They had all the beaches covered, and my debrief with the chief after the 4th, he thought it was a very successful weekend in Harwich. So we had a few complaints, but for the most part, I think that goes hand in hand with how many people are enjoying the town of Harwich.
Look at what
We
happened.
should be thankful for that.
What happened in Dennis. We are really.
Right. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Impressive.
For the
7:55.
second leg.
Told you. There you go.
Now, are we clear?
Done yet.